Two Worlds, One Family by Dragon Translator. Chapter 18. Hearts Break All Over. The next morning Bucket had the entire village rushing to the docks when he announced he had seen Trader Johan. Hiccup waited until most of the rush had made it down the walkways before he attempted the walk. He knew he really could have flown, but no one outside of Burke really knew the dragons lived with them. Hiccup could just imagine Trader Johan's reaction to a night fury landing right beside him as he docked. Toothless still walked behind him. The Terror, Hiccup named Sharpshot after watching him fire at pieces of wood Toothless threw into the air the night before, clung to Hiccup's back. Neither dragon seemed likely to let Hiccup out of their sight. They met Astrid at the lowest walkway that connected the docks to the stairs. She smiled, immediately slipping her hand into his. Hiccup glanced down and then up and smiled. She said she would tell him every day how much he meant to her, and just the fact that she would reach for his hand did more for him than words ever could. "Oh!" Snout grumbled as he walked past and across the gangplank onto Trader Johan's ship. Toothless and Sharpshot snickered. Astrid looked at Hiccup and winked. He grinned. They walked on, but Hiccup paused at the gangplank. He looked at Toothless. "I don't think Trader Johan will wish a dragon on his boat, bud," Hiccup said softly. Toothless's eyes became slits. Hiccup ran a hand over to the top of Toothless's head. Astrid reached over and scratched Toothless's cheek. Toothless crooned and nuzzled both of them. "I will watch over them, Brother Protector." Sharpshot said, "I don't think he would want you either there, little brother." Hiccup said softly, "But Brother Alpha—" "I will be with him," Astrid said, "and you can both stay right there," Hiccup said. "If anything happens, you can both jump in." Toothless took a deep breath. "Okay, brother, but we will be watching." Hiccup nodded and Sharpshot hopped down to stand next to Toothless. Hiccup and Astrid then moved back and walked onto the gangplank. Trader Johan looked up from where he was conducting a transaction with Mulch. Hiccup saw the man blink and then tilt his head before turning back to Mulch. Hiccup frowned, but turned when Astrid tugged on his hand and pointed to something. Hiccup glanced at her, then back at the item. "Another axe?" He asked. "I can make you a new one," he whispered, looking at her. Astrid stared at him, then grinned. "I know," she replied in a whisper. "I like the markings on the hilt." Hiccup leaned closer so he could study the runes and designs etched and then burned into the wood. "Ah, yes," Trader Johan said, walking up, causing both teens to jerk and face him. "That axe has an interesting story behind it. It belongs to a nomadic warrior woman who sought revenge upon a man who had slain her lover." Trader Johan paused, holding both hands close to him. "Such tragedy, such pain, but also such loyalty." Johan looked down and smiled. "And I see an interesting tale has taken place on these very shores. You have tamed dragons?" Hiccup frowned, then shook his head. "Befriended them," he said. "Yet those two on the dock obeyed you better than any hound trained and raised by the royal dog handlers in the south." Hiccup grunted and annoyed that Johan had reduced the dragons to mere animals. Astrid squeezed his hand. They had already decided not to widely spread the fact that dragons could speak and be understood unless they absolutely trusted the person they were dealing with. Trader Johan made people's lives easier on Burke and brought many things none on Burke had ever seen. But Hiccup trusted few people. 15 years of being the useless burden did that. Besides, no one wanted the other tribes in the archipelago to suddenly take a notion that Burke and its dragons were a threat. "I see a different tale is taking place right in front of me," Johan said. "My dear Master Hiccup, you dog, you." Hiccup frowned. "I'm sorry, what?" he asked. "Why, young Master Hiccup, you have the lovely Astrid at your side, and you two are holding hands. Oh, it makes this old trader's heart tingle with joy to see this." Hiccup felt his cheeks warm. He rubbed the back of his head with his free hand and glanced at Astrid. She smiled, squeezing his hand. He squeezed hers in return. Johan gave a pleased-sounding hum.
"Ah, young love in the frozen north," the trader said. "Such a wondrous and marvellous sight. My, I do believe I hear hearts breaking all over the archipelago."
Hiccup blinked. "I'm not following."
"Why, Master Hiccup, you and the lovely Astrid have taken each other off the market, as it were. Any with intentions to either of you are at a loss now."
Hiccup looked at Astrid. While that was true of her, Hiccup knew no one out there had any intentions towards him. That Astrid would willingly accept his courtship, even when she could have anyone, still amazed Hiccup. Johan clapped his hands together and pulled Hiccup's attention back to the trader.
"As charming and heartwarming as this is, alas, I am afraid my time here is limited. Was there anything you wished?"
Do you have any parchment?" Hiccup asked.
"Oh, yes, indeed I do."
Johan moved away and opened a chest near the front of the ship. He returned with a roll of parchment.
"Here we are."
Hiccup reached into his shoulder bag with his free hand and pulled something he had been working on out just before bed. He started before Gita had returned and finished it the last night when Toothless and Sharpshot played with pieces of wood in front of the smithy. Hiccup held it up to his eye. "It's a spyglass. It allows one to view things that are far away, as if you are standing near to them." He held it out for Johan to take.
"Oh, my!"
Johan exclaimed, holding the spyglass up to his eye and moving it in a slow circle.
"This is marvellous! I can see you are just as skilled as you always were, Master Hiccup. This will aid me well in keeping away from nefarious pirates. The entire roll is yours, and this poor old trader thanks you for your business. Alas, I must depart, unless the lovely Astrid is in need of something. Say a new axe?"
"Oh, I'm good," she said with a smile. Johan smiled.
"I'll say," he said, holding up the spyglass, "we'll need have you for an old axe with an intendant who fashions such wonders. Please excuse me. I see someone waving for my attention. Feel free to wander and peruse. If you find anything you like, just call for me."
Johan walked away. Hiccup glanced over his shoulder to see who had called the trader's attention. He frowned when he saw it was Mildew. Hiccup's eyes narrowed. "You okay?" Astrid asked. "I don't know. Mildew said he heard my dad when we were in the Great Hall, but Gita shook her head when I looked over my shoulder at her." Astrid hummed. I think most of the village were busy with Trader Johan here. Do you think we should find Gita and ask her if she... well, you know." Hiccup stared at her, his head tilting to the right.
"Didn't you want to look around?"
Astrid smiled. "I'm good, Hiccup. I knew you'd be here to see if Johan had any parchment, so I came down too."
"You did?"
Hiccup asked, straightening up. "But you didn't have to. You probably had other things to do.
More impor—"
His voice trailed off as Astrid's eyes narrowed. He gulped. She sighed. "Hiccup, I know it will take a long time, but one day I hope you realize that I want to be with you. That I want to spend time with you, beyond just training and teaching dragons and Vikings." Hiccup squeezed her hand. "Thank you." She smiled. "Want to go and find Gita before your dad has us aiding the fishermen and women?" "Sure." They left Trader Johan's ship. Sharpshot climbed up to his spot on Hiccup's back, and Hiccup mounted Toothless. He then glanced over to look at Astrid, and blushed before glancing over his shoulder. Sharpshot chuckled and crawled to sit in front of Hiccup. Astrid grinned and climbed onto Toothless's saddle behind Hiccup. She then wrapped her arms around his waist, one hand reaching out to gently grip Sharpshot right behind his wings. Sharpshot cooed. The hand stood still around his waist, splayed across his belly, and Astrid leaned against his back, placing her chin on his shoulder. Toothless tilted his head so he could see them. Hiccup felt his cheeks warm more as Toothless gave a warbling laugh and shot into the air. They headed for the Hofferson's house first. Toothless landed far enough away from the still recovering Nightmare, so his wings did not buffer the young dragon. Said dragon looked away from Torgir, who had been helping the Nightmare to eat, without having to stand and hurt his leg once more. Greetings, Alpha, Protector, Lady Alpha, and the tiny fang brother to the Alpha. Forgive me, Alpha, I can't bow. Miss Edith says I can't move. Hiccup waited until Astrid and Sharpshot got off Toothless before dismounting. He walked over, scratching the Nightmare's nose and smiling when the young dragon purred and nuzzled against him. Don't worry, Hiccup said. You just recover and do as Miss Edith says. The bowing part can wait. It could never happen if Hiccup had anything else to say about it, but Toothless said it would be a common thing, and no dragon seemed inclined to stop. Hiccup got the feeling it was the same level as the civility laws Toothless, Stormfly, Hookfang, and Lawkeeper spoke of. Still made Hiccup feel out of sorts and uncomfortable. How are you doing otherwise? Hiccup asked, in an effort to wrench his mind from such thoughts. They made the uncomfortable feeling worse when he thought about the dragon's bowing. I am well. Torgir here and I have become friends. The Nightmare looked at Torgir. I said that right, didn't I? Torgir smiled, patting the Nightmare's nose. You did, he said before looking at Hiccup. That's all right, right? I can be friends with him, right? Sure, Hiccup said, though his mind thought of several worries that came along with allowing this friendship. Torgir was too young to fly. Thankfully, the Nightmare's leg prevented that. But a time would come when the dragon would heal. Hiccup knew he had to speak to his father about restrictions on young Vikings bonding with dragons. While he was loath to stop any Viking or dragon from bonding, he did not want children in the air alone at all. A child did not have the reflexes or the focus to respond if something went wrong. A lack of both that far up could result in injury or death. Thank you, Torgir said. Mum told me to feed him so he didn't have to move, and we got to talking. He's really amazing and funny. He was telling me of things he did while he was growing up. Oh? Hiccup asked. Torgir chuckled. He apparently scared a nesting nadder. Oh, really? Hey, I was barely a fledgling at the time. The Nightmare cried. How was I supposed to know she'd just gotten her hatchlings settled? Hiccup tilted his head. What did you do? The Nightmare sighed. I may have inadvertently ran through her nest and startled her hatchlings awake again. In my defense, I was trying to get away from the one you call Lawkeeper. He wanted me to sit down and listen to more stories. Hiccup chuckled. I see. Well, stories of the past are good to listen to. They can teach us a lot. At least that's what Gothi etched out with her staff whenever she wished Gobber to impart a tale of our past to me growing up. You had to sit down and listen to elders too, Alpha? Yes, many times. Even when I wanted to be elsewhere, doing anything else. Did you ever scare a nesting spike thrower too? No, I did almost trip a farmer though. What is a farmer? Oh, right. A farmer is someone who grows food from the ground for us to eat. The Nightmare's eyes widened. You have nestmates that can grow food out of the ground? Yes. Are they like Elder Gida? Mages? Hiccup laughed, hearing Astrid chuckling beside him. No! Gida's magic is different from what they can do. When you are feeling better and Miss Edith and Gothi says that you can walk again, I'll take you to meet Flemmer. She's a farmer, and she can help you see what they do. Okay, Alpha. Torgir, have either of you seen Gida? Astrid asked. She and Shadowfire went for a flight. She said she was heading for the north side of the island. Astrid whistled and Stormfly squawked and moved around from the back of the house. Astrid mounted Stormfly and then looked at Hiccup, smirking. He grinned and shook his head. Sharpshot chuckled and then climbed up Hiccup's back. Hiccup then mounted Toothless. Bye, you two, Hiccup said. Keep listening to Miss Edith, young one, and you can fly again soon. As you wish, Alpha, the Nightmare said. Torgir, can you let Mum know where I am? Astrid asked. Sure, sister. End of chapter. Hi guys, hope you enjoyed that one. A nice one, that one, but it's leading to something. Okay, so I've got mixed opinions about Johan. He's funny, slightly annoying, and for those of you who know, he actually becomes somewhat villainous at times. Like, he tries to get a bewildered beast's egg and stuff. Like, it's pretty creepy. But for the most bit, I like him. He's quite funny. Anyway, you guys know the drill. Like, comment, and subscribe, and hit that bell to get notified whenever I upload a new video. Have a good day, night, or whatever time zone you're in. Bye my guys, girls and non-binary pals. I'll see you in another video. Take care.